The wreckage of the ship drifts aimlessly through the cold, dark void of space. Commander Aric stands motionless, staring at the fractured remains of what was once a vessel of power and glory. The ship's emergency lights pulse dimly in the distance. A jagged burning hole tears through its hull, sending fragments of metal into the abyss. This isn't just a shipwreck, it's a harbinger. "This is no accident," Aric mutters, his voice tight with disbelief. The crew gathers around, their faces filled with concern, unsure whether they should act or wait for orders. A distress signal begins to flicker on the console, its frequency interrupted by static. The word time breaks through the noise. Commander Aric grips the console, his breath heavy. Time? What do they mean by this? His fingers hesitate above the controls, but the silence in the room presses him to act. "We're going in. Prepare for impact." His crew exchanges uneasy glances. The decision is made. They are about to enter an unknown that could tear the fabric of their very existence. As the ship moves closer to the anomaly, Aric stands at the helm, his face clouded with doubt. "Something doesn't feel right," he mutters. Lena, his first officer, walks up beside him, her calm demeanor in stark contrast to his tension. "You think this is all a trap?" she asks, her voice steady, but her eyes betray her worry. Aric remains silent for a moment, then responds, "I don't know, but we can't turn back now." Lena sighs and looks out into the void of space, her gaze lingering on the mysterious energy field. "If this is a trap, it's a trap we're walking straight into." The crew members exchange uneasy glances, but none dare question the decision. As they approach the anomaly, the strange energies begin to warp the fabric of space itself. Time seems to slow. The ship shudders as they breach the boundary of the anomaly, and the entire crew is thrown off balance. "Hold on," Aric shouts as the vessel lurches forward. The lights flicker wildly, and the air fills with the sound of static. Crew members struggle to maintain control, their voices drowned out by the rising noise. Aric grabs the railing and shouts orders, but it's clear that they're losing control. The anomaly's power is far greater than they anticipated, and the ship begins to break apart. Lena, struggling to remain on her feet, glances at Aric. "We can't survive this," she yells. "We have no choice but to push through." With grim determination, Aric responds, "We're not turning back." The ship plunges further into the anomaly, its future uncertain. The ship emerges from the anomaly, but they're not where they expected. "Where are we?" Lena asks, her voice barely a whisper. Aric stares at the stars outside, recognizing none of them. The stars are unfamiliar, twisted in strange patterns. A distant planet hovers ominously in the background. "This isn't our galaxy," Aric replies. His heart races as he realizes they have been taken somewhere far beyond the known universe. The ship's systems struggle to regain functionality, and the crew looks at each other in fear. They are truly lost. A chilling voice crackles through the ship's speakers. "I've been expecting you, Commander Aric." The crew freezes, eyes wide. "Who's there?" Aric demands, his voice sharp. The response is cold and menacing. "Your arrival was foretold. You've been playing in the dark for far too long." The voice continues, revealing the existence of a secret empire that manipulates time itself. "You've only begun to understand what's at stake," the voice warns. Aric's jaw clenches as he realizes the enormity of the forces they are up against. "We're not backing down," he responds firmly, his voice echoing through the quiet cockpit. The voice on the speakers fades, leaving an unsettling silence in the cockpit. Aric's mind races as he tries to process the implications of the message. He turns to Lena, her brow furrowed with concern. "This empire," she begins, "they control time itself?" Aric nods, his face hardened. "They've been manipulating history to maintain power for millennia, and we just stumbled into their domain." The crew is still reeling from the revelation, but the gravity of their situation begins to settle in. The unknown forces that govern this empire now hold the power to rewrite reality itself. "We need to find that artifact," Aric says, voice steady with resolve. "It's our only hope." The ship's scanners beep, detecting a hidden chamber within the wreckage they'd discovered earlier. The crew moves to investigate, their steps heavy with the weight of the task ahead. They may have uncovered a part of history that was never meant to be found. As the energy from the artifact intensifies, the room grows colder. The air crackles with the power radiating from it, sending an unease through the crew. Lena steps back, her hand instinctively reaching for her weapon. "This isn't just an artifact, it's a weapon," she says quietly. Aric nods, his gaze locked on the glowing object. "It's not just any weapon," he replies. "It's the key to everything." The tension in the room escalates as the crew waits for something to happen. Suddenly, the walls around them begin to shift, revealing more of the alien symbols. They're not just here to discover history, they're about to become a part of it. Aric turns to Lena, determination in his eyes. "We need to unlock its power, or it'll destroy us all." The crew moves cautiously toward the artifact, knowing that every step could be their last. The crew works quickly, scanning the artifact and trying to unlock its secrets. One of the younger crew members, a woman in her late 20s, finds a hidden mechanism. "I think I've got it," she exclaims, her voice filled with excitement. But as she activates the mechanism, the ship shakes violently, and the lights flicker out. "What did you do?" Aric demands, his voice sharp. I didn't mean to," the young crew member stammers. The room is plunged into darkness, and a low hum fills the air, growing louder by the second. "We have to get out of here," Lena says urgently. But the exit is blocked, and the walls close in, the symbols on the walls shifting faster now, as if reacting to the crew's presence. The walls continue to close in, and the humming noise grows louder, filling the room. Aric takes a deep breath, trying to calm himself. "We need to hold it together," he says, his voice steady but urgent. "Lena, take the crew and find a way out." Lena nods, but before she can move, the ground shakes violently, sending them all sprawling. The walls continue to close in, and the air grows thick with energy. "This is the end," the young crew member whispers, but Aric's voice cuts through her fear. "Not if we fight." He steps forward, facing the artifact. "We're going to finish this." The energy from the artifact explodes outward, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The crew is thrown to the ground, and the walls finally stop closing. As the energy settles, the artifact dims, and the entire room falls into an eerie silence. Aric stands, wiping the dust from his uniform, and looks around at the crew. "We've barely scratched the surface of what they can do," he says, his voice filled with a mix of awe and fear. "We have to stop them before it's too late." The crew emerges from the wreckage of the alien chamber, battered but alive. Aric leads the way, his jaw clenched in determination. "We're not out of danger yet," he says, his voice low but resolute. Lena follows, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "We still don't understand what we're dealing with. That artifact was just the beginning." Aric stops and turns to face her, his face hardened by the weight of the mission. "Then we find out what's next. We have no choice but to continue." The crew gathers around him, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and resolve. They know they've just uncovered a small fraction of the Empire's power, and the true challenge lies ahead. As they move forward, the eerie hum of the anomaly continues to reverberate through the ship, reminding them that they're not alone in this strange corner of space. The crew moves through the dark corridors, the hum of the anomaly vibrating through the walls. As they approach the heart of the ship, Aric signals for a halt. "We're getting closer. Stay alert." Lena looks at him, her brow furrowed. What if the artifact was a trap? What if it's meant to lure us into something worse? Aric's expression tightens. "Then we'll face it head-on together." The crew exchanges determined glances, ready to face whatever lies ahead. The strange energy continues to pulse in the background, urging them forward. But with each step, the weight of the mission grows heavier, the sense of an unseen force pulling them deeper into its grip. As the door opens, the crew is met with a vast chamber, its walls adorned with strange glowing symbols. In the center of the room stands a massive device, pulsating with an energy that seems to warp the air around it. "This is it," Aric whispers, his voice tinged with awe and dread. "This is what they've been protecting." The crew looks around, the reality of what they are facing setting in. Lena steps forward, her voice low. "What is it?" Aric studies the device, his mind racing. "I don't know, but we need to destroy it before it's too late." Aric cautiously steps toward the device, his hand hovering over it. "This is where it all began," he mutters. "This is the source of their power." Lena joins him, her voice steady but filled with concern. "Are you sure we can stop it? What if it's too late?" Aric's expression hardens. "We have to try. If we don't, the entire galaxy is at risk." The crew watches in silence, each member aware of the immense responsibility now placed on their shoulders. The hum of the device grows louder, and the symbols around the room begin to glow brighter, signaling the activation of something far more dangerous than they imagine. As Aric activates the device, the entire room begins to shake. The energy intensifies and the symbols on the walls pulse in time with the device. "We've made a mistake," Lena says, her voice filled with panic. Aric's eyes widen as the room starts to warp around them. "We can't stop it now," he says, his voice grim. The room begins to distort, space itself warping, twisting under the immense pressure of the device. "We have to get out of here now," Aric shouts as the crew scrambles for an escape. But the walls close in, and they realize they are not just fighting an enemy, they are fighting time itself. The ship lurches violently as the crew scrambles to regain control. The walls around them seem to stretch and bend with the growing instability. Aric grips the console, his face etched with tension. "We're caught in the anomaly's grip. It's tearing us apart." Lena's voice is filled with urgency. "We need to shut down the device, now." Aric's eyes flicker to the holographic displays, watching as the ship systems fail one by one. "We don't have the luxury of time," he mutters. "Prepare for emergency escape." The crew is in full crisis mode, but deep down, Aric knows the only way to stop this is to confront the Empire itself. As the ship's engines sputter, the crew gathers in the main room, tense and unsure. "The Empire knows we're here," Lena says, her voice filled with unease. "We've triggered something. They'll be coming for us." Aric nods grimly. "They're already here." A distant rumble shakes the ship, and a transmission crackles over the communication system. The voice on the other end is cold and calculating. "You've done more than you can understand. You are meddling with forces far beyond your comprehension." Aric's expression hardens. "We know what you've been doing, and we're going to stop you." The voice on the other end laughs. "You cannot stop time, Commander. It is inevitable." Aric storms into the control room, his eyes burning with resolve. "We're not backing down," he says, his voice filled with conviction. "This Empire thinks they control time, but we're going to show them they're wrong." The crew exchanges uneasy glances, their previous doubts shaken but still unsure. Lena steps forward, placing a hand on Aric's shoulder. "We're with you, whatever it takes." Aric nods, his gaze firm. "Get ready, we're going to launch an assault on their stronghold." As the crew prepares for the next phase, the reality of their mission hits them. The stakes have never been higher. The crew gathers at the ship's weapons bay, each of them preparing for what's to come. "This is it," Aric says, tightening his grip on his weapon. "We either stop them now or we'll never get another chance." Lena nods, her face set. "We're ready." The ship shakes again, and the emergency lights flash. "Time's running out," Aric mutters. As they prepare to leave the ship and infiltrate the Empire's stronghold, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The reality of the task ahead, facing a force that controls time itself, sinks in. The crew steps off the ship and into the enemy stronghold, the air thick with tension. The interior is dark, cold, and oppressive. Aric leads the way, his weapon drawn. "Stay close," he says, his voice steady. "We don't know what we're up against." As they move through the corridors, the walls begin to shift and pulse with energy, reacting to their presence. The crew can feel the weight of time itself pressing down on them, and they know that the deeper they go, the more dangerous it will become. Aric stops at a large door, its surface covered in shifting symbols. "This is it," he whispers. The crew steps into a massive chamber, the heart of the Empire's stronghold. The walls are lined with strange technology, all pulsing with the same energy they've encountered throughout their journey. At the center of the room stands a towering figure, cloaked in shadows. The voice from earlier echoes through the chamber. "You have done well to make it this far, but it ends here." The figure steps forward, revealing the face of the Empire's leader, a once great ruler who has twisted time itself to maintain control. Aric's eyes harden. "It doesn't have to end like this," he says. "We can stop this together." The leader smiles coldly. "You cannot change the inevitable, Commander. Time belongs to me." The leader gestures toward the massive machine behind him, a temporal device that hums with energy. "This is the key to everything," the leader says, his voice dripping with arrogance. "With it, I can control the very fabric of existence. I will rewrite time to fit my will." Aric steps forward, his voice unwavering. "You're not a god, you're a tyrant." The leader chuckles. "You misunderstand. I am the future. The past is irrelevant." Lena looks at Aric, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "We have to destroy it. Now." Aric nods, gripping his weapon tighter. "Let's finish this." The battle begins as the crew opens fire. The sound of energy blasts echoing through the chamber. The leader raises his hand, and the room seems to freeze in time for a moment. The crew is momentarily paralyzed, their movements sluggish. Aric struggles to move, his body frozen in place. "You cannot fight time," the leader taunts. "I control everything." But Aric grits his teeth, focusing all his strength. "We'll see about that." With a final surge of effort, he breaks free from the time freeze, charging forward with the crew following behind him. The leader, caught off guard, stumbles back as Aric lands a blow to the temporal device, causing a crack to form along its surface. The crack in the temporal device grows wider as Aric continues to strike it. The leader's face twists in anger. "You have no idea what you're doing," he roars. The room shakes violently as the device begins to destabilize. "We know exactly what we're doing," Aric replies, his voice filled with certainty. The crew continues to press forward, working together to disable the machine. Lena looks at Aric, her expression one of resolve. "We have to destroy it before it's too late." As Aric strikes the final blow, a massive explosion rips through the room, sending shockwaves through the stronghold. The room erupts in chaos as the explosion consumes the temporal device. The walls of the stronghold begin to collapse as time itself seems to warp and shatter. Aric watches as the leader, defeated and powerless, crumbles to the ground. "This is the end of your empire," Aric says, his voice filled with finality. The leader glares at him, but no words escape his lips. The crew rushes to escape, but the ship is already beginning to implode. "We need to get out now," Lena shouts. Aric nods, leading the way as they race toward the exit. The rumble of the collapsing stronghold grows louder, and the crew knows they have only moments before everything is destroyed. The crew rushes through the crumbling corridors of the Empire's stronghold, the ground shaking beneath their feet as the building begins to collapse around them. "We're almost there," Aric shouts over the noise, his voice strained. Lena, in her 30s, looks over her shoulder, fear flashing across her face as debris falls from the ceiling. "Hurry!" she yells. The walls are unstable, the air thick with dust and the lingering energy from the temporal device's destruction. Aric leads the crew, his heart racing as the escape route grows narrower. "We can't stop now," he says, urging the crew forward. "We have to make it out before the entire place comes down." As the crew nears the exit, a massive explosion erupts behind them, throwing them forward into the path of falling debris. "Keep moving," Aric commands, his voice urgent. Lena, struggling to stay on her feet, pulls herself up. "We're almost there," she says, gritting her teeth. The ship's exterior is visible now, but the surrounding area is a war zone. Explosions and fires flare up in every direction. Aric grabs Lena's arm, pulling her to her feet. "We have no time for this," he growls. The crew races toward the escape pods, the ground shaking violently beneath them. The escape pods are within sight, but the leader's remaining forces block the exit, their weapons drawn and ready. "You won't escape," one of the soldiers sneers, stepping forward. Aric stands tall, his voice steady despite the tension. "We've already won. Your empire is finished." The soldier laughs bitterly. "You're too late." With that, the battle resumes. The crew fights back fiercely, their resolve unbreakable as they move toward the escape pods. Aric's eyes flash with anger. "We're ending this now," he shouts, charging forward. The battle rages on, but the crew is slowly pushing forward, getting closer to the escape pods. Aric and Lena fight side by side, their movements synchronized. "We've got this," Lena says, her voice strained but filled with confidence. Aric nods. "Stay focused." But just as they're about to reach the pods, a loud roar shakes the room. The leader, somehow surviving the explosion, emerges from the wreckage, his body surrounded by glowing energy. "You think you've won," he growls. "This isn't over." Aric faces him, his resolve unwavering. "Yes, it is," he says, raising his weapon. "This ends now." The leader charges at them, his body glowing with temporal energy, but Aric stands firm. "This is it," he says. "For all the lives you've ruined, this ends now." The crew opens fire, their weapons blasting at the leader with everything they have. The energy surrounding him shimmers and distorts, but it doesn't stop him. With a final roar, he lunges at Aric. But in a split second, Lena leaps in front of him, sacrificing herself to protect her captain. The explosion of energy sends Aric flying backward, but he quickly regains his footing, a look of horror in his eyes. "Lena!" he shouts, rushing to her side. The room is filled with the deafening roar of the leader's last stand. Aric stares at Lena, her blood staining his hands as he tries to revive her. "Lena, don't leave me," he whispers, his voice trembling. But the leader's laughter echoes in the background, growing louder. "You think you've won, Commander? You're nothing but a pawn in this grand game." Aric clenches his fists, tears streaming down his face. "No," he says, his voice growing stronger. "This is the end for you." With a renewed fury, Aric stands and faces the leader, determination replacing his grief. "You can control time, but you cannot control me." The leader steps forward, his body shimmering with the power of time manipulation. "You think you can stop me? Time bends to my will," he sneers. Aric stands, wiping the tears from his face, his resolve hardening. "You don't understand, do you?" he says, his voice low and fierce. "You may control time, but it's the people who make the future, and they will fight for it." The crew, now gathered around him, stands in solidarity. "We're not your pawns," Aric declares. "We're the ones who will write history." With a final powerful charge, Aric and the crew rush toward the leader, their weapons drawn. The air crackles with energy as they prepare for the final battle. The battle is fierce, with energy blasts filling the air. Aric and the crew fight with everything they have, their movements coordinated and fluid. The leader retaliates, manipulating time to create barriers and distort reality around them. "You cannot win," the leader says, his voice filled with venom. But Aric grits his teeth. "We already have." With a final desperate move, Aric leaps toward the leader, aiming for the heart of the temporal device. The leader raises his hand to stop him, but it's too late. Aric's strike hits the device, and it begins to crack, glowing brighter as the energy destabilizes. The temporal device begins to crack and pulse, sending shockwaves throughout the room. The leader's expression changes from arrogance to panic as he realizes the power he's held over time is slipping away. "No," he screams, his voice breaking. But it's too late. The device shatters, and with it, the grip on time itself is broken. The room begins to collapse as the anomaly begins to unravel, its power fading away. Aric stands over the leader, his face filled with both grief and victory. "You had your chance," he says softly. "Now it's over." The leader collapses, powerless, as the room collapses around them. As the stronghold collapses, the crew races toward the escape pods, their path illuminated by the fading light of the temporal device's destruction. "We're not done yet," Aric says, his voice hoarse but filled with determination. "We still have a galaxy to save." Lena's death weighs heavily on him, but he knows she wouldn't want him to falter now. As the escape pods launch into space, the crew watches as the Empire's stronghold disintegrates behind them, its grip on time broken. The galaxy is free, but at a great cost. As they soar into the stars, Aric takes a deep breath, his eyes set on the future. This is just the beginning.